so much different than the previous two events, which is a lot of fun. There's people above us. So welcome, I'm Craig Welsh from Society of Design, and we're ecstatic to have this kind of crowd here tonight. It's a huge swell in attendance from the previous two events, and to think that we're only 5 months into this is pretty phenomenal. So we're going to do just a quick overview, and then I'll intro Chip, and he'll do his thing, because I know that's why everyone's here this evening. And then, for those of you who did not have a chance to get something signed, Chip has graciously agreed to continue signing after the presentation concludes. So we'll kind of form another line somehow, and we'll continue with that for those of you who did not get a chance to this point to get something signed. So welcome to those of you who are from Baltimore and Philly and Scranton and Washington, D.C. and all the other outlying areas. It's quite fun to see those areas responding and making the trip here tonight. The other thing that's become pretty fun to see taking shape is we now have about 19 or 20 schools involved, and I think 19 of them are represented here tonight, either in terms of student being here or faculty member of some kind. So the reach of the organization is quickly kind of spreading throughout the region. The other thing that's become interesting, and this was kind of our hope when starting the organization, is we really wanted this to become more than just graphic design. So tonight we know from who's registered that we have a whole series of different disciplines represented here. And as this moves forward, we're going to expand on what we're doing at the event. So we'll get into some architecture and some maybe fashion design and other things as this all kind of continues forward. So Midtown Scholar's been awesome. If you don't know Midtown Scholar Bookstore, they're like 12 blocks up 3rd Street. If you go out the 3rd Street exit and kind of head up the street. They have a just incredibly amazing collection of books. They probably have the largest collection of design-related books between New York and Chicago. So 1302 North 3rd Street. This is kind of the main part of the store. They have a cafe there too. So it's a kind of nice spot in Harrisburg to go find some really amazing books. And they will be the host for the Society of Design Book Club. And that will begin in March on the 14th, and it'll be the second Sunday of every odd month during the year at 5 p.m. And the first book will be Confessions of a Window Dresser by Simon Doonan, who's the creative director at Barney's New York. And he got back to me a few days ago after I explained that we were going to focus on his book for the first book club reading. And he got back and said, I'm very flattered. So it should be fun getting the book club started. So SOD members will also get a 10% discount on everything at Midtown Scholar, including the cafe. So books, food, drinks, SOD members will get 10% off everything. And we're now at 187 members, which is incredible in less than 5 months to be at 187 members. And we might have a few more tonight if anyone signed up. The Thank You Project, we need to sell more of those cards out there. The cards that everybody went by because Chip was 5 feet down the road. This project includes designs by these 4 fairly well-known graphic designers throughout the country, and the way this works is every set that we sell, Society of Design keeps half of the net proceeds, and the remaining money that we earn gets split across the 4 nonprofits that these designers have selected. So every time someone buys a set of those cards, 5 nonprofits benefit. And we'll use the money at SOD to continue doing these kinds of things. Last year, in the first 3 months of the organization, we gave financial contributions to these 5 organizations. And tonight, Chip's nonprofit that he selected for Society to make a donation to is 826, which is a creative writing organization for 6 to 18-year-olds, I believe. So we also have, the last 4 are for the thank you cards. Those 4 the nonprofits that will benefit from the sale of the thank you cards. We have a couple of things happening. Central PA Food Bank will happen toward the fall. So we're still working on that. We'll have details in the next couple of months. We're trying to get details to the schools before semester ends. And then Keys for the City, the piano that was out in the main entryway. We've teamed with Music for Everyone, which is a Lancaster-based nonprofit, and the Mayor's Office of Special Events in Lancaster. And this will kick off on May 21st. And what we're going to do is we're going to get 10 to 20 pianos, and we're going to make it open for Society of Design members to submit design ideas for them. If your design is selected, we'll have a jury select the designs. We'll get a piano to you. You'll have it for a month. And then we'll come back, pick it up. It will then be positioned at some point in Lancaster City for a 4-month period to begin on what is known as Music Friday in May. So it'll be up through Music Friday in September. And we expect this is going to draw a lot of attention. And there will also be an exhibit of all of the submissions at Pennsylvania College of Art and Design in Lancaster. So tonight we have Chip here, which is great. We had a couple other events to help kick off the organization. We have Modern Dog in a month from tonight, 4 weeks from now, and that will be held at Pennsylvania College of Art and Design in Lancaster. Both Robin Ray and Mike Strasburger will be coming. And then we have Armin Witt lined up for next year, and we have a couple other people in the works. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks we get to announce some other people for the fall. So students get to do probably some really cool things. I'm really jealous. So student group at Penn State Harrisburg with Society of Design, they raised their own funds and made a trip to the Sundance Film Festival. So this is some of the SOD students at the Sundance Film Festival, I guess next week. We will also be co-sponsoring a screening of Helvetica at Lebanon Valley College at the Allen Theater in Annville, which is a restored theater. And then after the screening, we will have a kind of type forum on campus, walk across the street to campus, and we'll do some letterpress demonstration, have a discussion about type or Helvetica for about an hour or an hour and a half. And we'll have more details on the website for this stuff. A trip coming up in early April. So for the event tonight, we had submissions of posters, and we had 30 people submit ideas, and they were out on the table in the entryway. So we had these 30 posters. We put them all together in a file, and Chip got back and picked Aaron Island's design as the official event poster for this evening. And it was kind of fun seeing members jump in very quickly. So if you didn't already get a poster, everyone's welcome to grab a poster on the way out. We typically give posters away at all the events. So if you haven't already picked one up, you're free to grab one on the way out. And then we also have a Twitter page. We're not on Facebook yet, but that's in the works. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, we have that up and running as well. So tonight, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Chip Kidd. He's a native of Shillington, PA, and a graduate of the graphic design program at Penn State University, and probably best known for his book jacket designs. Yeah, we're doing Penn State. Should we do the We Are and then the Penn State thing? Because I'm kind of biased. I went to Penn State undergrad, so, but the rest of the crowd probably won't go for it. So his work's been featured in Vanity Fair, Print, Entertainment Weekly, The New Republic, Time, New York, and ID magazines. He's also a regular contributor to visual commentary to the op-ed page of the New York Times. His first novel, The Cheese Monkeys, was a national bestseller and the New York Times Notable Book of the Year. He's the editor-at-large for Pantheon and has written about design and pop culture for McSweeney's, Vogue, Details, and Twice, among others. He's also the lead vocalist, percussionist, lyricist, and co-songwriter in Art Break. Author, graphic designer, art director, and musician are all titles that can be put before Chip's name. We're fortunate to have him with us for tonight's presentation. Please join me in welcoming Chip Kidd.
Wow. I want to thank you all for coming. I was honestly worried that I was going to outnumber you. It's happened. And yeah, God, you made me feel like Lady Gaga. love living in New York City. Day to day, I live and work in Manhattan, and I'm always overhearing like snippets of dialogue or seeing, you know, bits of graffiti that really crack me up or inspire me. And I came upon a snippet of dialogue the other day, and it's become my new mantra. My old mantra, by the way, was, "This is a nightmare. This is a total nightmare." But I've changed it. So I was standing in line at the KFC off of Union Square on 13th Street, and there were a couple people in front of me, and the guy that was at the front of the line says to the woman behind the counter, he said, "You know, I'd like 4 buckets of 21-piece original recipe." And she says, "Is that for here or to go?" Now, this guy was clearly by himself. And rather skinny, you know, not a large presence at all. And this being New York, he said, "Excuse me, how the hell would I sit here and eat 4 buckets of 21-piece original recipe by myself?" And this being New York, the woman behind the counter said, "Bitch, I don't know your life." My new mantra. Try it on your parents. Try it, please. This rules. This rules. That is why I live in New York City. All right, now we have to talk about the work. All right. Mostly what I do is book jackets, and so this is one that I had to work on a while back. And it's a memoir by this guy named David Shields, who was like turning 50, and it's a midlife crisis, and his father was turning like 90, and it had a pretty cool title, which is this. And so I'm thinking, all right, where might I encounter this phrase in my daily life? And one night I was in Chinatown having dinner, and the answer sort of came to me at the end of the dinner, and so I set up this very simple photo shoot. These are my fingers. And, you know, I made it red so that people would buy it. And I thought, yeah, this works for me, you know. So there's a whole hierarchy of approval where I work. So I showed it to the editor. She liked it. Showed it to the editor-in-chief. He liked it, showed it to marketing, they liked it. So then the editor sends it to the author. He the opposite of likes it. You've taken my profound title, you've put a smiley and a frowny face on it. No. Start over. So it's like, all right, how about some type? Type is nice. You can read it. So I still want to give it just a shred of a concept. My old teacher is Laney Simis is here tonight, you know, and he would like pound this into our heads, you know, a concept. So basically what's happening here is we're taking your eye on a journey, right? So you're going to start at the top. It's like the thing about life is that one day you'll be dead. And then you're dead. So, show it to the editor. Editor likes it. Show it to the editor-in-chief. He likes it. Show it to marketing. They like it. They send it to the author. He the opposite of likes it. You've taken my profound title and you're having way too much fun with it. So what I think you should do is change the color blue and make it all the same size and make it flush left and rag right with a pink dot and make my name yellow. And other than that, you can do whatever you want. So, there it is. That's the cover. And that's the way it went out into the world. We do so it's his book, and that's what he wants, that's what he gets. And of course then the book came out, and it got rather snarky reviews and didn't do well, and I was very happy about it. Okay, you may or may not know Augustine Burroughs. He is the Running with Scissors guy. He is a humorist, memoirist, and I did not do the cover for Running with Scissors, but the follow-up to that was a memoir called This, and it's about his stint in rehab. He was, in his 20s, he was a hotshot advertising exec on Madison Avenue and a raging alcoholic. Now, of course, if you've seen Mad Men, you know that's redundant. But it also made him dysfunctional, and of course he didn't think he had a problem. And so finally his coworkers did an intervention, and they said, okay, you are going to rehab, or you will be fired, and you will die. So he sort of couldn't argue with that. Now, again, going back to good old Penn State, my first assignment in Typography 101, select a word and then design it so that it looks like what it says it is. Now, in this particular case, I'm going to do the opposite. We have our word now, but we're going to make the word look like the opposite of what it's telling you. We're going to make the word look like it's in denial. And this is the most low-tech solution you could possibly imagine. I set up all the type in Quark and printed it out on an Epson printer with water-soluble ink, tacked it up onto the wall, took a bucket of water, and threw it at it. Seriously, that is what you are looking at. And so, he liked it, everybody liked it, it was a freelance job, HarperCollins, and so the book comes out, and Augustine tells a rather amusing story of being in an airport bookstore, biding his time because his flight was delayed, and going into the bookstore to see if people were buying his books. And this old woman came up to this, and she looked at it, and she squinted, and she shook her head, and then she took it up to the counter, and she said, "This one's ruined!" And the guy behind the counter said, "I know, lady, they all came in that way." Okay. Now, the follow-up to that was called This, and this is one of these great moments where Augustine called me up on the phone and he said, "This is the title of my new book, what do you think?" And I said, "I think it's great, and I know what the cover should be." And he said, "What?" And I said, "I'm not going to tell you. I'm a terrible lawyer for my work. I can't explain it to you or tell you why you should like it. It sits in a bookstore. It's either going to work for you when you see it, or it's not. It has to explain itself." So basically, I got the concept, and I called up my friend Jeff Spear, the photographer that I do a ton of work with. I told him the concept, and so we put an ad in the Village Voice looking for a very specific kind of hand model. And we got a couple crank responses, but then we found the right guy. This is pretty amazing, and he was really thrilled because he didn't get much work as a hand model. So I sent this off to the art director, it's a freelance job, and he got back to me and he said, "We love it, marketing loves it, and the reason they love it is because it's yellow and it has a hand on it." So that's good for them. Okay, now, a large part of that story that I just told you was bullshit. This is my hand. Jeff is a Photoshop whiz. He added an extra finger onto it. He's great at that. So that's that. However, the next thing I'm about to show you is real. The book comes out, it's number one, and Augustine gets a fan email, a woman in Phoenix, Arizona, who said, "When I saw the book in the store, I burst into tears because I realized I was no longer alone." And I was like, "Gerline, where were you when we needed you?" My favorite part is the 30% off sticker. or should say 30% more. All right. Now, I constantly have to clear something up with a group such as yourself. Gesundheit. I've sort of like reached a point in my career where it's sort of perceived that, you know, I get, you know, a book jacket assignment and I just park my cheeks and out it comes and I pick it up and I say, here it is, isn't this great? And everybody says, oh my God, we love it, you did it again. And rose petals fly and champagne corks are popping and there's laughing and dancing. No. Nope. I get my shit rejected all the time. Pisses me off. So, the next Augustine book was going to be his take on Christmas. Right? Great title. And, I mean, naturally, what you would think is, him being who he is, you'd want a shot of a screaming kid on some, you know, poor son of a bitch Santa's lap, freaking out. Well, we couldn't do that because at the time, this was last year, the Chronicle books had come up with an entire book of that stuff. So that ground had been broken. So I had this other friend who's a photographer named Tom Allen, who's a genius, and he had started this project called the 12 Tawdry Days of Christmas, where he would go into a local Goodwill every day and find sort of like the cheesiest Christmas piece of kitsch crap that he could find, and then post it. You know, time on his hands. So, but there was this one figurine. Well, there was a couple things that I thought were pretty good candidates for this. So, you may be familiar with this figurine of this girl who's freaking out with the Christmas wreath. Works for me. It's cute. And so send it to Augustine. He's like, you know, it's all right, but it's just not mean enough. And I want it to be really mean. So I went back to Tom and I said, you know, you had that other thing. You had that ceramic Santa sort of like candy dish thing where and I said, okay, we're getting there, but not people. Let's try firearms. And so, okay, yeah, that's cool, and of course you can tell it's Santa. So, but let's like really seal the deal and bring the girl back. Right, so, yes. So we send it off, I send it off to the archer. And a week goes by, I hear nothing. 2 weeks go by, I hear nothing. Now, no news is never, ever good news. Ever. In a situation like this with design. If you send a design to somebody and they love it, they will tell you immediately. So, you know, by the third week, I'm like, well, okay, there's that. And so finally, the art director gets back to me, and sure enough, he said, you know, it's just too mean. I said, really? He said, yes. And, you know, we actually literally spent 10 minutes in the marketing meeting discussing whether Santa is showing the little girl his penis. And I'm thinking, the guns aren't enough for you. So, but what I said was, do they want him to? I'll work with you. And he said, no, they don't. They really don't. But all right, I'll go back to the drawing board. So then I started thinking about what else do people do that's, you know, a popped up for Christmas that you see, on the street. And, indeed, you like dressing up your pets. So, there are many websites devoted to this sort of thing, and somebody had sent me a couple of these, which I just adore. I mean, nothing really says, let's celebrate our risen Lord, like clamping a pair of bunny ears onto the head of a cat. Or turning him into a sheep. Or my favorite, the quacky head. Somebody clamp that on his head and he's going to get revenge. But of course, wrong holiday. So let's go back to Christmas. And I wanted a pet that just really looked angry about this. And that's just 12 kinds of wrong right there. I like that because it reminded me of the Grinch. But he really looks miserable. But then, of course, like mean. And so this one was my favorite. I'd like to think that the instant the shutter was snapped, he just lunged and just bit his face off. So I'm like, okay, I nailed it. So I send this out, and a week goes by, and another week goes by, and by the third week, indeed, the art director says, you know what? We solved it in-house. Why don't you bill me a kill fee? Now, you may or may not know, I mean, this came out in December. No, it came out like in November. But this is what they went with after all of that. Marketing changed their minds. That's the real, actual jacket. So, yes. Change it all the time. This is an entirely different sort of circumstance. I hate business books, but the woman who wrote this one sought me out specifically. So I want you to do this. And it's about the fact that at Morgan Stanley, the CEO was ousted a couple of years ago by a coup of 8 of his board members. I could care less. But anyway, I sort of got an idea of what to do. It's sort of like making it look like it was a novel. Again, this is using my friend Jeff, taking one of those little Lionel train figures of the businessman and making this sort of scenario. And their corporate color is this kind of blue. And I thought, I think that sort of tells the story, right? And it's not embarrassing. So I sent it to her, and she gets back to me, and she says, "Oh no." I said, "What?" "This just doesn't have the soul of Morgan Stanley." And I'm thinking, it's a hedge fund company. They have no soul. That was it. Bill a kill fee. Done. But it was fun to see what they actually came up with. And she was right. That is the soul of Morgan Stanley. Okay. Often when we do a Q&A at an event like this, usually it's filled with students, and inevitably one of the questions will be, Mr. Kent, do you ever get a manuscript for a book that you need to design the cover for, and you do luckily, I work for a really great publisher, so the quality of the books mostly is pretty high, and then of course the freelance stuff I can sort of say yay or nay to. I think where I draw the line is, you know, a book that's written by somebody trying to convince other people to think like an asshole, like for like Sarah Palin or something like that. But Fangland, and not Fangland, Fangland tells the heartwarming story of the blood-sucking undead who work in network broadcasting for a very popular television news program, magazine, not unlike 60 Minutes, where the author used to work. And it tells of the young and up-and-coming blood-sucking undead, and they're working on this TV show, and they sort of like, you know, their lives and their loves, and this is a stupid book. Fangland, stupid book. Dumb. But I have an idea. So it doesn't matter anymore. I'm a whore. And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm, you know, this young and up-and-coming blood-sucking undead person, and I meet another such being, and, you know, we sort of are attracted to each other, so we go out to dinner, and that's going well, and so we go home, and we're going to get busy. But first, we're going to use a little protection. So we're going to take out our teeth. And put them in a glass, so that we don't puncture each other. Don't want to do that. And of course made it red so that people will buy it. And you know, hey, it works for me. So sent this off to the art director, and he got back to me and he said, nobody likes this. It's not scary enough. And I thought, well, you're scaring me. And that was that. Killed. Okay, this is the book that came out just a couple of months ago. Paul Rudnick writes for The New Yorker, but also he writes screenplays, he writes plays. If you've seen either of the Addams Family movies, he wrote the screenplays for both of them. He's really, really good and really funny. And so this is going to be his book of humorous essays. Some of them are like memoirs. Well, a lot of them are memoir, actually. And so, but he grew up in sort of upper-class New Jersey, and I shudder was something that his mother would always say if she couldn't stand something. Like, oh, that John McCain, I shudder. So, he's got this great campy sensibility, and so I came upon this photograph by this really, actually, a Philadelphia-based photographer, David Graham, and he had a book of his, he takes pictures usually of like cheesy outdoor decorations, but he was in a wax museum in Texas, and came upon the Wizard of Oz. And obviously it was very hot in the wax museum because Toto is slipping. And I thought I was being clever, so by cutting off her head, then we don't have to get permission from MGM, which of course would not give it. So the subtitle is "And Other Reactions to Life, Death in New Jersey." And, you know, I just thought, you know, this is a home run. I mean, come on. And so I sent this off to the art director, and he wrote back and he said, "We laughed and laughed and laughed, and you have to start over." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because it's too gay." I said, "Fucking homophobes." Anyway, so then, you know, it's actually really difficult to sort of do something that's funny without making it look silly. I mean, Rudnick is a real sort of citified guy. This would be his idea of like walking the dog, like that's as much as he can do. But no, they didn't like that. just love them. These are some friends of mine. This is at the Museum of Natural History in New York. They have all those great dioramas. And they were like, no bare breasts on the card. Now this had possibilities. The editor-in-chief liked this, and I will say, I did not color correct this image at all. And I love it. It's just so weird for several different reasons. First of all, it's completely overcast. There is no sun at all. It's cloudy out. Maybe they're asleep. I don't know. But then the umbrellas. It's like, do you want to get a tan or don't you? And it's very sort of like suburban hell. So the editor-in-chief communicated through the art director that I like the image, but the type isn't funny enough. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? There's no funny type. But, you know, what the hell? It's like, ha! Laugh it up. But no, Paul just didn't think it was right. So anyway, so then I went back to the manuscript, and I'd only read half the manuscript, I will be honest with you. Usually I read all the manuscript, but I'm a huge Rudnick fan, and I read everything that he writes in the New Yorker, and I figured, well, I'd read everything here already, but I hadn't. There were two essays in it. One was about him coming to New York in the 80s, and he was in the theater world, and it was just the crucible of the AIDS crisis, and it's really actually heartbreaking that, one by one, all his friends in the theater world are getting this and dying, and it's really unbelievable, but very believable. And but one of the other essays, which was really weird, and I've known him for years, and I didn't realize this, but he's got this really freaky diet where he basically only eats candy. Really. And Diet Coke. And he's skinny. It's really, really weird. But his favorite thing are those dreadful marshmallows. And that's the thing, he's like, none of that Godiva stuff for me. No, that's too high tone. Give me the Kit Kat. Come on. And those horrible marshmallow chicks that you get at Easter. He loves them. He eats them all year round. So then I start to put these two converging ideas together. It's like the AIDS crisis and Peeps. But basically, what happened was, we get the Peeps, get them to Jeff's photo studio, and his little 3-year-old, my godson, sort of like rips open the Peeps and eats one. I'm like, you little shit. That's our prop. But something pretty miraculous happened, because it's like we were just gonna like shoot the Peeps, right? But now one of them has been eaten, and the interesting thing is that they have these curious little looks on their faces. They sort of look like what's going on here? Someone ate Sebastian. Did you see that? That little shit just ate Sebastian. I'm like freaking out. Am I next? And this sort of did it. This did it for everybody, you know. And you know, something like this, it has the great sort of WTF factor. Like, what the hell does this mean? And you know, hopefully you're just gonna like pick it up and try to investigate to see what it means. So that anyway, that came out last fall. It's a really, really funny book. Really funny book. Which leads us to, and as you saw, Sedaris had given the quote to that book. So basically, I adore David Sedaris, as does the rest of the human population. Bless you. And so I did Naked, and I did Dress Your Family in Corduroy originally going to be called this. So this is a book of essays. It's a great title. Love the title. And I'm thinking, all right, where might I encounter this title in my daily life? And so, one night at dinner, this amazing idea came to me, and so I set up a very simple photo shoot, and I thought, okay. This is a good idea. I will not have it wasted by some stupid author. Okay, so, send it off. Editor likes it. And they send it to David, and David the opposite of likes it. You've taken my profound title, and you've put a smiley face on it. Why did you do this? Okay, so, now we gotta start over. And so I'm thinking, okay, how about some type? Type is nice, you can read it. Oh, wait, sorry. Oh, the title changed, that's right, I'm sorry. He was going through, passport control, and his passport got stamped with this, phrase on it, which he just thought was the most hilarious thing he'd ever seen. So, I'm like, okay, I'll roll with this, and we'll just do the type right. So, what you're seeing here is, I'm taking your eye on a journey. And you're starting at the top. That's with David Sedaris, indefinite leave to remain. You're gone. No one liked this. At all. Why did you do this? It's forcing us to become sad. Okay. So anyway, then I get a call from the art director, and she said, David found this amazing piece of art. It's a skeleton painted by Van Gogh smoking a cigarette. And I'm thinking, what? How is that going to work? But whatever, bring it on. So it turned out, actually, that it was pretty cool. Now, there it is, and we actually got permission to use it. I mean, that was the thing that I thought was going to kill the deal, because it's hard to get permission for some of these works of art by these famous people. Anyway. But my idea that you can sort of see and not see here was like, this is a totally meaningless title that will, nobody will care. Let's just blind emboss it on the front cover. Just stamp it. And nobody bought that. Nobody bought that idea. So now I have to work with this title. So maybe it's the ashes falling off the cigarette, or maybe it's the smoke that's drifting up from it, or maybe the skeleton's going through customs and they just stamp his head. Am I taking you there? No. No. So anyway, then in the meantime, another title change. This title came from, David was in an antiquarian bookstore somewhere in Europe, and there was a pamphlet printed in Japan during World War II for the populace of Japan, and it was a guide as to what to do should there be a nuclear attack by the United States. Oh, as if. And chapter 4 was what to do when you're on fire. And he thought, of course, that this was the funniest thing that he had ever heard. The new funniest thing. And it is funny, I guess, in a very morbid way when you know what the backstory is, but again, like in and of itself, it's a very awkward, strange phrase that doesn't really ring. But anyway, got to work with it. And at least we didn't have to start over. We had to still use the art. So now I'm thinking, okay, why don't we sticker the book? So it's like a warning. It's a biohazard warning. But it's a sticker. So when we get home, we can just take it off and throw it away. Sticker it. No, nobody bought that idea. Then I'm by this point, we're, what, 4 or 5 months into this process, and we all just decided, you know what, screw it. Just put the damn title at the bottom of the design. It's the new David Sedaris book. That's all anyone cares about. It could be called Steaming Piece of Shit, and people would buy it. So why don't we all just move on? And that's what we did. And, you know, the thing with the interesting, both with David Sedaris and with Augustin Burroughs, is like they've got these rabid fan bases, so that you do literally know that no matter what you do, it will debut at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. And that's a really interesting situation, because in my estimation, it's like, look, that's what's going to happen. We know what's going to happen. Let's do something great. Let's do something that really challenges your audience. And I don't think that this is bad. I think it's actually a terrific, iconic image. But I just thought, you know, like conceptually, there's not really a whole lot going on here for me, anyway. But love the writing, love him, and hope to work on the next one, whatever that is. Okay. One of the things I just love about my job is that I'm working on so many different things at once. I'm working like 15 to 20 different kinds of projects at once, usually books. And there was this one magical week last fall in September where I was working on 2 completely different kinds of novels basically at the same time. And well, you'll see. So the first is this guy, Bret Easton Ellis, who wrote American Psycho. And the first book that he wrote was Less Than Zero, and that really put him on the map at a very young age. He wasn't even out of college yet. But, you know, he's got this whole creepy, amoral vibe going on in all of his books. And so the new one, Imperial Bedrooms, is going to be out this June coming up. And it's a sequel to Less Than Zero, so all these like totally depraved LA people in the movie business are now, you know, what, 20 years old or 30 years old or whatever they are. And there's this one scene where, towards the end, this particularly horrific sort of like orgy-esque thing is going on, and one of the sort of like victims of it says, like, now I know what the devil looks like. And so I found this amazing picture of, this is of a sort of like exorcism ritual in South America that this photographer down there had shot. And this is a much smaller part of a much bigger picture where somebody's, you know, this guy is, you know, it's a ritual. He's masquerading as the devil, and somebody's holding up a cross to sort of ward him off. And it's like, this is just so perfect. And with somebody like Bret, you know, it's not about the title of the book. It's like, this is the new Bret Easton Ellis book, and we have to let people know that this is the sequel to Less Than Zero. And so that, you know, that's precisely what it says under his name. And so then you can get really small with the title. You know, like, not everything has to be big. The impact here is undeniable. And this was it. It was the first thing I did, and everybody went for it. And so that was a huge relief. Now, at the same time, I'm working on this book by this guy, Alexander McCall Smith. Now, you may know who he is. He's this sort of like sweet, homespun, British writer, and very prolific. And probably the thing you may or may not know him for is he did the #1 Ladies Detective Agency, which was made into a series on HBO about these women who in Africa, who started their own detective agency. This is a different series that he's doing. Corduroy Mansions takes place in London in this like charming little townhouse where a different person lives on each floor, and it's very episodic, like soap opera, but like sweet and very British. And what ties it all together is that there's a dog that lives in the townhouse that everybody sort of takes care of. It's not really anyone's particular dog, but they all sort of see to him. And his name is Freddie de la Haye. Now, you know, at this point, I'm in my career, it's like, I'm not going to screw around. It's like, this is too good not to do. So, there it is. I mean, exactly. It's Freddie, man. And he actually, he just looks really alert and sort of like sweet, and it's shameless. It's utterly shameless. And this is going to come out this summer too. And it's like I'm not going to screw around here. Like we're going to bring out the Don't Play Fair, use Freddie DeLay. And but just to think about that, like I literally designed both of these things the same week. It's like, no, I'm Satan. My 24th year at Knopf this year, so, and counting. It's still great. I still love it. Okay, last year I got a couple magazine cover jobs, which for me is always very exciting because I get very little magazine work, and I've accepted that I'm the book guy, and so whenever one of these art directors sort of thinks outside the box and asks me to do something, I jump at it, and I'm thrilled. And of course, it's Time frickin' magazine, so of course I'm going to do it. But it was this concept. He said, okay, this guy's is writing this essay, and he sent me an email of it. But it's basically about the aughts or the OOs or whatever sucked, and this is why they sucked. And then hopefully this is what's going to happen in the next 10 years. So I'm thinking, okay. And again, like this is a very sort of conceptual graphic design 101 thing. I basically set up a very simple type scheme using, of the cover with a white background, black lettering, and then I crumpled it up and put it in my briefcase bag thing that I carry everything around in, and just carried it around New York for like a week. And then I unballed it and had my friend Jeff shoot it. And, there it is. So it's like, we got through it, but, we've been in better shape than we are now. And I sent it to the art director, and he's like, I think this is great. Let's show it around. But he, and he's a good guy. The art director at Time's been there forever. And he said, now I'd have to tell you, we've got like 2 other people working on this thing. So somebody's going to win, and just so you know. And I said, that's fine, I understand. I'd be amazed if you weren't. And sure enough, he eventually, a couple days go by, and he said, they just couldn't do it. They loved the idea, but they were just worried that the subscribers would get this in the mail and think that the mailman screwed it up. I'm like, you're kidding. No, I'm not kidding. I'm really, he was so apologetic. And I'm like, you're Time magazine. Your subscribers probably went to college. No? Homeschool? So it didn't make it, and of course, then this is what they did go with. Now think about this. They're worried that the subscribers won't understand that the other design was a Trompe-l'oeil effect. But they're okay with making a baby cry. Someone had to make this kid cry to get this shot. That's okay. We poked him with a tack, it was fine. It's like we gave him a lollipop, it was no problem. I'm just saying. Sitting on a tack, this kid. So. Okay. This, I will ruin the surprise, was a much, much happier story. But again, how weird. Like, I never get assignments like this, and I got 2 of them in like the same week and a half. Rolling Stone is doing their version of the end of the decade, and I said to the art director, I said, well, the idea is so obvious to me. And he's like, what is it? I'm like, I can't tell you. I have to show you. And so they give me all the cover files and blah, blah, blah. And, that's it, right? It's the aughts, it's the OOs. And, so you repurpose them. You take them out of the logo and make it your thing. And then you make it red so people will buy it. And I have to hand it to the art director, a guy named Joe Hutchinson. He really, really had to talk Jan Wenner into this, but he did, and so there it is. And so it was just so odd to get these bizarre, symmetrical assignments, and then the one goes down. Like I would have expected that the time thing would have been fine, and that this they just simply wouldn't go for. But there it is. James Ellroy. James Ellroy is one of my favorite authors that I've worked with for a long, long time. You probably know him best. He's the author of these noir crime books, Los Angeles crime books, and the one was made into a movie called L.A. Confidential, which is a wonderful, wonderful movie. Another one was called The Black Dahlia, which was also made into a film recently, like in the last year or two, by Brian De Palma, and it's terrible, and it's just bizarre, because it's an excellent book, and De Palma's a genius, so what the hell happened? But we don't know. Anyway, last fall, Ellroy's new book, Blood's a Rover, was coming out, and this is total serendipity. This is a photographer came to show me her portfolio of, she had been in India for a couple of weeks and taking like really interesting shots of India, and she came highly recommended, and the work was good, but I didn't have any immediate use for interesting shots of India, but okay, now she's on my radar, and if that comes up, okay. And she had this other portfolio case with her. I'm like, what's that? She said, oh, you don't want to see that. I said, what is it? She said, well, these are just my LA street shots. Give it up, yeah. So here was this amazing picture of this whatever it is rounding the corner in downtown Los Angeles. And I'm like, you know what? This is so crazy. This just may work, and it sort of did. And so what I'd like to do now is there's a woman, a filmmaker named Rachel Talbot, and she came to me about a year ago, and she said, I'm a fan, and I want to make a 5-minute film about you. And large over him.
White, red, black, gray. Approximation of crime scene footage.
The red can suggest blood without showing it. You're either dead or you're alive. You're either a criminal or you're not. There aren't a lot of shades of gray there.
I want to take your secrets public. I want to burn down the distance between us. I want to give you breath. When I write a novel, I do not think of what the covers will look like. With Chip Kidd, you leave it to him because it will be conceived and realized on an unimaginable plane.
James is reinventing crime fiction, so I feel it's my obligation to also reinvent the crime fiction jacket.
I am the supreme genius of crime fiction. Chip Kidd is the supreme genius of dust jacket design.
So shy and retiring. So, I just want to leave you with one little parting thought. This is something that my parents used to say to my brother and I, where they tuck us in at night in bed and kiss us goodnight and turn off the light. And I know it's really corny, and not very profound, but I've always took it to heart and I use it in my everyday life. I've always tried to live by this. It's actually a pretty darn good metaphor for the design business, if you ask me. So, thank you very much.